I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Item 2C, preview and approval of the agenda. I'd accept a motion, please.
I move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Item 3, consent agenda. I'd accept a motion for approval.
Move to approve the agenda as presented.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Item 4A, audience delegations.
There were none.
Thank you. Item 6A, new business, partner organizations, Bright Futures. I have Ms. Lacey here.
Hello.
Hello.
How do you pass those around? So some of what I'll talk about tonight is on that document, just to reference that. Lacey Dominic, I am the chair for Bright Futures. I was with you last year about this time as well, so as I was thinking about what to share with you,
I just turned mine on.
He's coming. Do you understand that?
We can hear you.
Oh, yeah, I'll pretend. So wanted to just maybe give you a couple things that we don't talk about a lot with Bright Futures, and then just give you guys a couple updates of some of the things that we're doing and getting ready to do. I do feel like a lot of you are pretty aware of what Bright Futures is. We're just here to serve the needs of the children in our community, whether that be just their basic needs of food and clothing. We have various programs that we utilize to do that, but also their emotional and their mental needs as well. And we do that by providing different programs through the schools to promote like positive adult role model interaction with those students. Bright Futures is an organization that's run by an advisory board. We are about 21 members strong. A couple of your own are on our board with us. And we have 7 new faces this year, so that's been really exciting. Just get some new people in there, and everybody is just really engaged and really excited about all of the things that we're doing. Outside of the board, we have councils in each of our buildings, and those are run by the staff in that building, as well as some of the students, like in the high school, are a part of that council. And then we encourage any community members that want to be a part of those councils to join those as well. So that's just a little bit about how we're structured. One of the things that we don't talk about a lot is our My 42. You might see that on some of our printouts and such. My 42 was started about 8 or 9 years ago, and it was a campaign, 42 standing for our children to ensure bright futures. And it was just a campaign to encourage people to commit 42 of something per month to the Bright Futures organization of Harrisonville. So it could be $42 donation, it could be 42 items, 42 minutes of your time, just 42 being the premise around that. As well as there was a statistic that we found that people are 42% more likely to say that they're happy versus those that don't volunteer. So that worked really well. And I just wanted to mention that because a lot of our programs, and a couple that I'll talk about here today, and our campaigning for fundraising and stuff, we use the 42, and I feel like sometimes people are like, well, why do you use the number 4 versus FOR in our program? So hopefully that makes a little bit more sense as we go through some of these programs. So currently, or here just recently, we ran our back to school fair. We served about 150 students. We provided backpacks for the grade appropriate level that they were going into with all of the supplies that those students needed going into their current grade. We partnered with Samaritan's Feet, and that organization provided about 143 pairs of shoes for students at that event as well. So that was a successful event. 150 students has been a pretty consistent number for us year over year the last couple of years. We're currently in our holiday adoptive family. Right now we have 78 families paired with adopters. Of those, there's about 207 children that will be taken care of through that effort. That is up from about 140 children last year. So we do see our numbers continue to grow with the children that we are supporting in the community. Lunch Buddies is a program that we run that enforces that positive adult role model experience that I was talking about. At our McEwen, we have 26 students that are paired with 26 community members that are coming in and having lunch with a student twice a month and just sharing a meal with them, sharing a conversation with them, just giving them somebody to talk to, somebody to look up to, hopefully. We had a breakfast recently. One of the big things out of that breakfast was just getting more lunch buddies. We were able to pair the rest of our students that were looking for lunch buddies from that breakfast, so we were really excited about that. We have a program called Work for What You Want. It's not a program that we talk a lot about. Work for What You Want. There's about 42. Work for What You Want is a way that we allow, this is primarily geared for our older kids. Students may need funds for supplies in a class or an extracurricular activity or fees for a conference that they're looking to attend. Through this program, they're able to invest in this themselves. We pair them with businesses in the communities or organizations. It doesn't always have to be a business. We actually have an individual that works with the children now. And those students go out, they work the hours that they need at a minimum wage rate, and then that business sends their money to Bright Futures. We then send it to the organization that they're working for. We have about 15 businesses or partners in the community that we're currently working with that support our students. Right now, we actually have 4 students utilizing that program to earn some money for a drama conference that they're looking to go to after the first of the year. So it's a really cool program. It was one that kind of fell by the wayside, obviously during COVID, but we've seen it come back here in the last 9 to 12 months. So if you ever hear of a student who's looking to earn some money, we've got a way to do that, and it gets them involved as well. As well as if you hear business partners, we are always looking for people to add to that roster. Our biggest program is our Food for Thought program, which is our weekend food program, where we are supplying a box of food for a child that feeds them on those weekend days that they don't have access to food at school. We currently have about 175 students that we are providing food to every week, and that number is growing almost every week. And every box that we send out costs about $22 per box. You guys have been to the grocery store. That expense is obviously growing for us as well. That program is solely funded by community donations. So what you will be seeing from us in the near future are a couple different campaigns. Last year I was here, I spoke about our Bowls for Bright Futures event. That was a fundraiser specifically that we put together to support that Food for Thought program. We are going to have that again this year. I would invite you all to come. It is actually February 20th at the high school cafeteria. That is the night of a basketball game. So again, it's from 4 to 7. So you'll see more about that. But here in the next couple weeks, you'll see a couple other things. Giving Tuesday is November 28th. And so our goal is to engage 42 people to donate $42 on Giving Tuesday next week. So that is something that we will do a social media push here very soon. So hopefully you'll see that all over the place. And also in December, we're going to do 12 days of giving, just simply encouraging people to maybe adopt a student. If we could just get one person to adopt one student, even for a month, that helps provide a meal. Or maybe they want to adopt that student for 6 months or for the school year. That would be the goal around that. Simply just kind of adopt a wildcat, similar to what we've done with our backpack program for back to school. But it would be providing meals for those students on the Food for Thought program. So we're doing lots of things. There's lots of other programs. That sheet that I gave to you shows a whole list of things that we do. I could be here all night telling you about those, but those are kind of the highlights. Again, we have a very active and engaged board, and it's been a very exciting time for us. So thank you to many of you, because I know that so many of you are supporters of our Bright Future program, and we really appreciate that.
Thank you
Thanks,
very
Lisa.
much, Lacey. Good job.
I will tell you just something, Lacey's leadership is absolutely amazing, and we have such a great team that does all of those things for our students. One of the things that is completely aside from that, but helps me in times where I want to be able to give, or to remember right at the very beginning of the year, they were looking for some clothing items and things, and I didn't have the ability to go out and get that, but they have a Venmo account which allows you to give. My wife gives me no money at all, and so, but I do have that, and it allows me to give. But it is so easy and so nice to be able to do that. So, thanks for just thinking about the alternative ways of paying for the things that our kids need.
Adult prom coming up.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I mean, we can go on and on and on about all the things. Yeah, adult prom, just for me, is our kind of our sister program of Food for Thought, but, and adult prom fundraises for that event.
And when is that?
March.
Point of me, you're the one that had to ask if I can't remember what
It's in March, that's
It's in
sorry.
March.
I don't remember. You're gonna be in Columbia.
Coming up, first or second weekend of March.
Yeah, it is
Okay.
Second weekend, March 9th is when I'm in.
March 9th.
Yeah.
Next year.
Sorry.
That sounds right.
Thank you very much. Okay, moving on to item 6B, 2022-23 audit report. I would accept a motion, please.
I move to,
What?
That's how you do it.
Oh, okay. Thank you. Come on up. I thought we were gonna have discussion afterwards, but that's okay.
Hello.
You get to talk, don't worry.
Okay. Hi, everybody. My name is Mandy Coolin, and I'm a partner with Westbrook and Company and one of the district's auditors. So thank you for having me tonight to present the audit to you. Hopefully you've all had a chance to look through it, but I'll just go through some highlights, and you can feel free to just follow along on the PowerPoint with me, and then I would be glad to answer any questions you guys might have. Deb, are you controlling the PowerPoint? Okay, perfect. Starting out is our audit opinion. So this can be found on the first page of your audit report. Here's where we state that the financial statements were presented fairly. So it's an unmodified or a clean audit opinion. We didn't have any material adjustments to make, and the financial statements were in good standing when we came into audit. So that's always a great place to start. This is the district statement of activities. So to the far left of the screen, you can see expenditures broken down by function for total expenditures of about 40.7 million. Now to the right of those expenditures, you'll see program revenues that are coming in to offset those expenses. So these are going to be any charges for services or any operating or capital grants and contributions. And then to the far right, we have a net expenditure column. And at the bottom there, you'll see a net cost or net expense of these functions of about 31 million. Just know that then those expenditures are covered by your general revenues. So your basic formula, property taxes, sales tax, those other general revenues, which just aren't presented on this slide. Then we have the organization's balance sheet as of June 30th of 23. So we can see district cash balances broken down by fund for total fund balances of about 16.6 million as of year end. Now, on the next slide, if you're, yeah, that one. I'm kind of skipping ahead as you're looking through the audit report. This one isn't necessarily in order, but this shows you some detail about the fund balances. So you can find this in your footnotes, but this shows of that $16 million in fund balance of the year, or at the end of the year, we had about 400,000 that was assigned for student activities. There was about $579,000 that was assigned for food service. This tells us that our funds in the debt service fund are restricted to service the district's debt. And then the capital projects fund, we had a little bit of unspent bond proceeds left. And then there were some projects that were committed as of year end. So these are any projects that have been approved but maybe not completed or paid for until the following year. And then our remaining balance in the capital projects fund is going to be used for future capital outlay. This is the district statement of revenue, expenditures, and change in fund balances. So the top portion of this, I know it's really hard to see, but you can see revenues broken down by source and by fund. So we had total revenues for the year of about 37 million. Midway through the page, we can see expenditures broken down by function and also by fund for total expenditures of about 40.7 million. Now, we have boxed in red there that overall fund balances decreased about 3.4 million for the year. If you look by fund, you'll see that a large portion of that was due to the capital projects fund decrease as the district has spent down bond proceeds. And then in your footnotes, you can find information about the district's debt. We can see payments made during the year as well as future payments. We'll just skip through the next couple of slides, but just know those amortization schedules can be found so you can see future payments on the district's debt. And then we show a couple of trends. Now, you won't find this in your audit report. It's not an audited page, but we'd like to put it in our presentation so you can see some historical trends for the district. What this slide shows us is revenues compared to prior years. So you can see a 5-year trend of revenues. And if you would look at that, you'll see that for 2023, revenues were about 37 million, and that's an increase of about 4 million from the prior year, largely due to the increase in federal funds. The graphs show us what percentage of your revenues were by source. So for each year, you can see, okay, how much was local, how much was state, federal. So just some historical information there. On the next slide, we show the same sort of information for expenditures. Your total expenditures for 2023 are about 37 million, and that's kind of in the middle of the page there, which was a decrease of about 10 million from the prior year. And the bottom part of that just shows us overall total expenditures by source. So what was salaries and benefits? Those are, of course, always your biggest, usually 65 to 70%. Purchase services and supplies, it kind of shows you a 5-year trend over expenditures. Then we have a couple of graphs here just to show trends with reserves and average daily attendance. Reserves were just over 37% for the year, and that's the top graph here. We can see that over the past few years, those have trended up each year. The bottom graph is your average daily attendance. That dropped about 40, but we were still around just over 1,900 for the year. And so that's kind of shows you 5-year trends with your average daily attendance and district reserves. Now, when we're here to audit, we look at compliance with state statutes, specifically over budget, purchasing, attendance, and transportation. And you'll see in our report here that we didn't have any instances of non-compliance over state statutes that were reported. On page 43 of our audit, this is where we show our report on internal control. Now, if you read through our report on internal control, you'll see that we don't provide an opinion on internal controls, but we do consider them and see what controls the district has in place to help us design our audit procedures and determine any risk areas throughout the audit. We did report one deficiency in internal control, which has been in the report before, so you're familiar with that, over segregation of duties. And that's strictly because of the business director also having system administration access. And so we know that the district has controls in place for dual procedures, dual approvals, which will help mitigate risk in that area. But that's what that comment is regards to. This is talking about internal controls over federal programs. We audited the Education Stabilization Fund, or the ESSER funds, as the major federal programs this year. We didn't have any instances of non-compliance to report over the internal controls with federal programs or compliance with federal programs. And then this is found in your audit report, but this is basically just a summary of the results that we just discussed. So you'll see that it was an unmodified opinion. We did report a material weakness over segregation of duties, but over the federal awards, there were no deficiencies or non-compliances reported. We audited the Education Stabilization Fund, and then the bottom you'll see where it says, is the auditor qualified as a low-risk auditee, and that's marked no. I just like to point that out because what that means is because the district is cash basis, which most school districts are, Because your financials are reported on cash basis, the uniform guidance over federal program says, okay, if an organization is cash basis, you have to audit more. So basically means you have to have 40% of your federal programs audited. So that's very common with school districts, but I just like to point out that that's what that is referring to. And then this was the segregation of duties comment, we talked about that. And the last piece on the next slide, this is from our required communications letter. So this is a separate letter that is separate from the audit, but here is where we would report any general recommendations or other things that we saw throughout the audit that maybe aren't an internal control issue, but just corrections we've made or best practices for the district. The first comment here is in regards to purchasing documentation. When we pulled our purchasing documents for testing, we pulled a sample, and on one of the purchases selected, we noted that it didn't have quotes or bids that are required per district policy. And so we would just recommend that when quotes are obtained for purchases, that all goes with the purchase. It goes to the accounting department, so then right there you have your documentation as far as your purchase order. These are the steps we took to get bids or quotes, or these are why we couldn't get quotes, because it was emergency or it was a unique vendor. We just recommend having all that documentation there to support that the district policy was followed. And then the next comment was over attendance. So when we audit attendance, we take all of the data from the attendance software and reconcile to that, or back to what gets reported to DESE. And when we looked at the calendar for the Juvenile Detention Center, we noted that what was reported in the attendance software differed from the calendar on DESE. The DESE calendar was short about 64 attendance hours, or total hours in session. So that correction has been made, but we just recommend a reconciliation there to make sure that the underlying data is feeding properly to DESE. So that's been corrected, so we're good on that. But those were the only two comments we had. Deb and her team did a great job getting things turned around to us, like always. It's a pretty streamlined process there, so we enjoy coming to this audit for sure. Do you guys have any questions for me?
Thanks, Deb.
Yes.
I would just
That was
like
very efficient.
to read one of the paragraphs that you wrote. I really like it, so I want to read it. It's on page 11. It just says, in conclusion, the Harrisonville Cats R9 School District has committed itself to financial and educational excellence. The school district is in excellent financial health and plans to continue its sound fiscal management to meet the challenges of the future while striving to provide quality programs, empowering its students with the essential tools to achieve at high levels. I love that.
Well, I would love to take credit
Who
for
wrote
that,
that?
but that is actually a management report, so that's between Deb and Dr. Chastain.
Did you guys write
That
it?
is their report, so that's a chance for them to say, this is what's going on.
So good.
I wish I could say I wrote that.
It is done to reflect the hard work and effort
Yeah.
of our business department.
Yes.
And Mandy is always so great to be able to share with us and continue to support us as we go through each and every audit that we have, so we sure appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you
Good job.
guys.
Thank you for
Thank you
your hard
guys
work.
so much. Will you all have a good Thanksgiving?
Thank you too.
Thanks, Deb.
I know the business office doesn't like to be put on the spot, but they do an excellent job. They do. Okay, so now I would accept the motion, please.
I move to approve the 2022-2023 audit as presented.
Have a motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Item C, superintendent update.
All right, well, this is the fun time that we get to come into. I would like to just briefly share with you our attendance. And right now, we're holding steady. Anytime we have a hold steady piece, we like to jump up and cheer, because it is important that we make sure that we are not losing students, and as has been the case over the last couple of years, as we saw by our average daily attendance,
average daily attendance is not our enrollment. And so it does take in a percentage of attendance based on that enrollment. But right now we're holding steady at 2151, which is, or 2145, which is about 6 students off from last year. And to note that, that's a big number. As we continue to encourage people to come and be a part of this great community, we'd like to see those numbers. As well, with that attendance report, when we do get our demographic survey back from Preston Smith, hopefully sometime in December, hopefully that will give us some insights into our long-range enrollment planning. The next thing I have is our What's Great, and we have Ms. Filer who will come up, and you guys are in for a treat.
Oh, we have our students, so this is the best part. So we're gonna start with, we have 3 students to recognize this evening, so I'm gonna invite first, Lacey's gonna put on a new hat, she's gonna be volleyball coach now. So Lacey's gonna play volleyball coach, and we're gonna let Lexi and Lacey up.
So I've had the privilege of being the C team volleyball coach and then assistant coach for the varsity team for the last 3 years, and through that, been able to get to know Lexi. So I've just been a part of her journey for 3 of her 4 years at high school, but she reached a huge milestone this year. She got 1,000 assists over her career as a high school volleyball player. So that's huge. She's only the 2nd player to ever do that. So that's really great because you only do that by playing varsity. As I'm told, I wasn't here for her freshman year, but she was invited up to play varsity at a Scion game, and she never left the team. So, outside of doing that, she's broke school records, the career assists, career aces, as well as aces within a season. This year at 5'2", she led our team in kills. And that
Oh my word.
outstanding.
That's great.
Best channel season was still, she's 5'2".
I love it.
She was also first team all district, first team all conference this year, and while doing all of those things has maintained a 3.9 GPA. So hard. She came to us last spring and said, I want to play all 6 rotations in my senior year. And she did. She worked her tail off this season, increased her vertical a ton, and she played all 6 rotations every single game this year. Outside of all of those things, it's just been fun to have a front row seat to watch Lexi these last 3 years. I've been able to watch her morph into a leader, which has just been the coolest experience. She is a great leader. She's got a heart for the younger kids, loves speaking into them and giving them some advice about how they should spend their time. So we are going to miss her, but really excited to see what she does next.
Thank you.
Hey, who'd you bring with you?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Jean and Don and George.
Hold on, Lexi. Hold on just a second. We may have a few questions for you.
Oh.
Does anybody have any questions for Lexi?
What's your favorite school to play at? An away game?
Oh, that's a good one.
Thanks.
Honestly, Adrian, which is
Yeah.
surprising, but they have like the best student section.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Yeah,
Thank you.
they're
What are
mean
your-
to us, but they're good.
What are your
How many
plans?
assists did Coach Fisher have? Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Fisher back then.
We didn't count those things.
Yeah, we did it? Damn.
And it was at 5 sets, so it's a very different
Yeah, it
game.
is, isn't
Yeah.
it?
What are your plans next?
I'm planning on going down to Mo State and either
Go Bears.
either majoring in psychology or marketing.
Congratulations.
Fantastic.
Proud of you. Good job.
Thank
We would like to take a picture of you though. And Mr. Meyer and Mr. Alexander would love to join you.
Yes.
Yeah, I'll take it.
Yes, I guess you can send it to me.
Yeah, I can text it to you. Alright, I'll move out of the way. Caleb
That way you're only looking at one place at a time.
and Mom, you want to?
I got it.
Okay. And next up, we'll have Mr. Dekoff and Case come to the podium.
Thank you very much for having Case here tonight. He is a much better speaker than I am, so I'm going to let him tell you a little bit about his experiences at the National FFA Convention and some success that he's had this year. So, from you.
So to start out with a little bit of chapter history, before I qualified for nationals this fall, the only other contest team to qualify for nationals was in 2014, a team of 4, 2 of which were my cousins, Austin and Blake. And so when I started thinking about joining FFA in middle school, obviously my cousins talked about that a lot. And so it was a goal of mine to qualify for the same convention that they did. And so to qualify for a national convention, you have to win the state contest in your respective event. Mine was dairy handlers, which is pretty much just a showmanship contest that's held at the state fair. So at the state fair, they have all five dairy cattle breed shows, and they choose a showmanship winner from each breed, and then they do an all breed show off to choose a supreme showman. And so I won Holstein breed, and then I ended up winning supreme showman, and so I got to compete at national convention. So it was a huge goal of mine, and then at the national contest, I kind of got an unlucky draw. I drew a brown Swiss heifer, and so I got to show that heifer around a little bit. I ended up placing 11th out of 47 and got a silver rating, and so I got a big pin for my jacket. Other than that, just last week we had the district fall speaking contest. I have a speech about comparing generational farmers to first generation farmers, and I ended up winning districts, and so now I get to compete in the state finals in February. So last year I also competed at the state finals and ended up winning with the speech about cooperatives. So
Didn't you come to Rotary and give us your speech?
I did, yeah.
I thought I remembered that.
So yep. So hopefully in February I can do the same. And
Yeah.
that's about it. Unless Mr. Dekoff has anything.
Where you going over the summer?
Oh yeah. This is through 4-H. I competed at the World Dairy Expo judging contest in October, and I placed 4th individual in the whole contest out of a little over 100 kids. I spoke at 57 reasons, which is a perfect score, and I was 4th overall in reasons, and so I qualified to go judge in Scotland over the summer. I get to spend 2.5 weeks in Scotland, Ireland, England, and Luxembourg, just judging cows.
That is so cool.
Learning about Europe. So it's gonna be a pretty good experience.
Are you gonna see those Shetland ones?
Yeah. So we're going to the Royal Highland Show,
Oh,
which is they have a whole bunch of those.
very cool. Well, we want to see pictures.
It was good.
Cool. Okay.
Did you bring one good?
I brought my mom, Kelly, and my advisor, Mr. Dekoff.
Nice. Well.
I didn't bring my
I was like, dang.
You got a step stool?
I didn't. One more. Thank you.
And then last but not least, I'm gonna have Mr. Matthew come up with Kenny.
Yeah, put a few notes on my phone, so I apologize in advance for this. But this is Kenny Barnard, everybody. He is a senior at Harrisonville High School, a member of the Royal Regiment Marching Band, where he is on the mallets, and a lot of people comment about how they love to watch him play. He really gets into what he's doing. And he kind of gets that from us. He's a show choir guy as well, so he's in the Music Makers, part of the leadership team for that. He is the October Student of the Month for the guys side of things at the high school, and happened to have scored a 33 on his ACT. We're not here to brag about all that stuff tonight. We're here to talk about his singing, which is taking a long way. I have to go back to junior year for just a moment when he auditioned for the all-district choir for West Central, which is about 50 high schools. And of those high schools, that he becomes one of about 40 bases to be selected. And then those 40 to 45 bases auditioned again in October for the all-state choir again. This was his junior year, and he was selected as one of the top 4 basses out of those 40 to be selected for the Missouri All-State Choir, which he participated in and did a great job last year. And then I get really nervous when they come back their senior year because it's difficult. It's such a subjective thing, singing and judging the singing. So I always get really nervous when they make it their junior year to come back to their senior year. But he went through it all again, and the second time he was also selected to be the Missouri All-State Choir, one of the top 4 basses out of about 100 that started the process from our 50 high school West Central district. So we're very excited for Kenny to be part of the Missouri All-State Choir yet again. And that's still not what we're really here for tonight, because then he decided to get really crazy with things and auditioned for the Southwest American Choral Directors Association, a regional honor choir, and was selected for that. And we'll celebrate what that means. What that means, there are 7 states that are part of Southwest ACDA, or SWACDA, as we call it in the biz. Arkansas, New Mexico, Colorado, Oklahoma, Kansas, Texas, which is a big one for music, for choral music, and then of course Missouri. So all those states, the very best of the best singers auditioned, and he was selected to represent Harrisonville High School in Denver, Tuesday, February 27th through Saturday, March 2nd, with the concert being Saturday about 2:45. So if you're in the Denver metropolitan area, Saturday, March 2nd, 2024, stop in and go see Kenny sing a little bit. It's going to be quite the experience, and so we're really proud of Kenny. So I thought I'd start with a question here. Kenny, what are you most excited about going to Denver to do besides sing?
Well, I don't know a lot about Denver. I'm sure there's fun things to do there. I always find something. So I'll have a good time.
I'm sure you will. All right. Well, let's see if the board any questions for you.
I'll have a question. Let's see. What do you enjoy about having different conductors when you're there, learning from them? What's the best thing that you find with that?
Well, there's always new experiences to have with them. They all have their own little eccentric. They're all very, they have special things about them. Yeah, I've had many interesting experiences.
Have you learned any new techniques from being underneath different conductors? Like for your knowledge and your repertoire and in your musicianship?
Usually, all they really do is tell you to be more musical when you're singing.
Explain that.
Make it sound good.
Make it sound good.
They don't really get that far into the technique. It's because there's not a lot of time. You see, and they gotta.
How much time do you guys have when you come together? I know Mr. Matthews works on the music with you here, but then how much time do you guys actually have to actually perform together before the concert?
So the All-State Choir, we have about we have a couple of days before it where we have rehearsals throughout those days, and we have practices in our district, like two practices in our district before, for like a total of like 8 hours.
2 4-hour practices we have
That's
before we go to all
That's a lot, but that's actually not a lot of time for a whole choir. That's incredible. So they have to be really very good musicians to be in these choirs. So this is a big honor. So congratulations, Kenny. That's fantastic.
And I do need to shout out that that honestly, I can't go with Kenny to this, and I've never been able to take students to SWACDA, or every other year it's the National Choral Directors Conference somewhere. Because we're always on the road with the show choirs somewhere. We will be, so we're definitely going to be missing Kenny when we're in North Omaha that first weekend of March. But we'll power through.
Skip over to Denver.
No, we're pretty close. We probably share the same weather, unfortunately. But at any rate, I do want to shout out to his voice coach, Bill Johnson at Southland Music Conservatory in Raymore, who had the idea to audition him in his being his sponsor for that event. Since I'll have the rest of the Harrisonville music makers with me. So anyway, any other questions?
And who did you bring with you tonight?
I got my parents, Joanne and Kevin Barnard, and my grandmother, Terry Barnard.
Yay, well, once again, please, yes, congratulations, that is a wonderful honor to have, and we would like a picture of you as well. And, yeah, sure, Jenny and Ashley, please, be careful that TV.
All right, here we go. And we'll let you.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Grandma's here. Gotta let grandma in the house.
Good job, buddy.
Congratulations.
Those are excellent representations of students at our district. We have the best of the best here, and we sure do appreciate you guys very, very much for being Harrisonville students. Jill, I know you have a few other little things before we wrap that up.
I do, and to wrap up, we always do 3 things. So the next thing I want to talk about is our fall feast that they had for the first time at AGS this year. They invited 2 guests for every student to come and have Thanksgiving dinner with the kids. They did it on 3 separate days, so first grade, second grade, third grade. They had a total of 428 attendees over those 3 days. It was an all hands on deck event because the ABCO sent over extra people, as did OPA, so that we could serve them and then clean up the tables and then serve again. They also had artwork on the walls for the families to enjoy and photo booths for them to take pictures at. They've already made plans for next year that they're going to invite some of our high school students to come over and be guests of some of our kids whose parents can't attend.
Oh, that's a good
So
idea.
everybody will have a friend with them during the fall feast next year. And I think they talked about doing it all in 1 week. Yeah, I think they talked about doing it all in 1 week this time. So, but they've got to figure it out. So it was a great event to bring our families back into our schools, which we're really working on doing more of. And the last one, we're just talking about getting back 3 items that we're giving back in the last month. The district food drive that we always do for the Shepherd Staff Food Pantry. We filled their box truck over more than once. They had to go empty it and come back and get more food. And they are always so appreciative of what we do for them. They anticipate that food drive and expect it. And so our schools always do a great job, our families and our community supporting that. The middle school just completed a coin drive for the Veterans Community Project they do prior to their Veterans Assembly to build up to their Veterans Day Assembly. And they raised $1,500 for the Veterans Community Project, which they will be donating. And they did it as a competition, and Mrs. Britton's class won that. And then ECC, I wanted to shout out a little bit to them, kind of ties to what Lacey was talking about. For the My 42 Day each month, which is the 4th Tuesday, where we all wear our green shirts, they have been challenging their kids to do a coin, bring in 42 cents. So they send home a baggie, and the kids bring in 42 cents each. They've done that in September and October. They have raised $307.37 with that change. And so they're using that money to support Bright Futures needs within their school. So they bought the milk for a Breakfast with Books event so that families, they have donuts already, so they purchased the milk for that. They bought extra community helpers costumes so that all the kids could have community helpers costumes for their parade. And they bought some pants, sweats, and things for their nurse to have in her office. So they're bringing in money and they're using it for the help within the needs within that school. So I thought I wanted to point that one out as well.
That's wonderful.
There you go.
Thank you. Well, I know as intriguing as our board meetings are, if any of you would like to leave, please feel free. I know.
Thank
you.
I'll try. Yeah, I'm gonna get her good on my later. I like it. Bye, honey. See ya. Monday. My case.
Bye.
My case. See ya.
Wow, we're very lucky. Very lucky.
We'll go on to item D, strategic plan update.
No update, other than, again, we have our December 8th board retreat, and then we'll be talking about the process starting this spring.
Item E, finance update. Yeah. As of the end of October, we are a third of the way through the school year, or financial school year, I guess. Overall revenues are at about 17% of budget and expenditures at 25% of budget. We did receive our transportation, our new transportation calculation for the year. We are at about 950,000, which is about 150,000 more than what we received last year. And just to kind of put that in perspective for you, last year in fiscal year 23, our regular route and fuel expenses was about a little over $1 million. So comes pretty close to offsetting that, but that does not include activity trips and sped routes, which the transportation money isn't really expected to cover all of that anyway. So we're moving in the right direction when it comes to the transportation budget, transportation funding from DESI. So our revenues and expenditures are both very comparable to last October. Our fund balance percentage is at 29% compared to 23% last July or last October. And cash and investments are at 14.3 million.
Looking good for this time of year.
Yes, I would say. We should start getting in some tax revenue next month.
Yes, we got ours.
Yeah.
I haven't added it,
Yeah.
I haven't looked at it yet.
Of course, in January will be the bigger month, but it'll start trickling in next month.
Any questions for that? Thank you. We have school board candidate filing timeline. I want you all that are considering re-upping to read this and note all the dates and the times. It's a little confusing, but take note.
This was actually one of the things that at the delegate assembly we had to vote on.
Really.
So some areas like St. Louis, you know, there's so many different places and, you know, they have so many buildings. So that was one of the things that they wanted to change was that it could be done at like the county clerk's office so that people didn't have to be at the administration building. But we voted for it to stay. Sorry, Mr. Henry, I love you, but to keep out the confusion, keep it at the administration building.
Yeah, it's important for sure.
But then they were also talking about trying to get back to eventually getting, it used to be like almost 6 weeks that you could go file. So they're
Third
talking about-
Tuesday in January it went to.
Right, because of the office being closed for that, you know,
Yes.
so.
It
Anyway,
is.
that's just something that we voted on at the delegate assembly, just so you all know.
Thank
But
you.
it's keeping it at the admin building. Sorry, Miss Susan.
That's right. We will have somebody here that last day. We do have to have somebody here on the 26th. Other than that, we follow our normal business hours, but we will need to have somebody here. And we will have somebody here from 3 to 5 on December 26th. So the final part of that.
Okay. Item G, 23-24 ridership count. I would accept a motion.
Move to approve the ridership counts for the 2023-2024 school year as presented.
Second.
Any questions, comments? If not, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Item H, hazardous zones. I would accept a motion.
Move to approve to transport the 270 students who would have to cross hazardous zones as presented.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any questions, concerns? If not, all those in favor signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Item I, establish date and time for personnel performance review for December 2023.
And then to establish December 19th, 2023 at 6 p.m. prior to the regular board meeting for the personnel performance review.
Second.
All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Professional development plan. Accept the motion.
I'll move to approve the 2023-24 professional development plan as presented.
Second.
Comments, questions on that?
So this has been something that we've been working on quite a bit. Annie has taken this on to make sure that we have a collective agreement of professional learning from all of our buildings to our district and what we have. And I don't know how clear this has been through previous years in that process, but we're really trying to refine that and make sure that it's appropriate. So we will have this approved at our usually at our October meeting, but it took us a little bit more time to make sure we had everything just right, and Annie and her team put a lot into it. So it's the next step in our great direction.
Thank you, Annie. All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Item K, HATS testing guidelines. I accept the motion.
It's not a,
Oh, it's just information, sorry.
If you would like, Annie, would you just give us a brief update on some of the changes that we did for updates?
Yeah, so after meeting last year on several different occasions, we looked at some trends that we had in our HATS numbers with students, and then reached out to districts kind of our size surrounding us to see what their procedures were for identifying their students in their gifted programs. We were testing students in either fall or spring, starting in 3rd grade. So we would test the 2nd graders spring if they met the criteria through either FastBridge, which is our universal screener, parent referral, teacher referral. We were noticing that students were starting to test they could test every year. And so with that, you start to see an increase in around 4th or 5th grade because you can learn an IQ test. You can learn some strategies and techniques to help increase that. So our recommendation is to move to, we are only testing in the spring, and we will test. So if you test like this spring, you have to wait at every other year if you want to be re-referred for HATS if you don't meet the criteria that first go around.
And that will be explained ahead of time.
Yeah, so the reason for this was to making sure I like things very clear and detailed, and so bringing this here for information so that I'm going to update the website. It's already been updated, it's gone through our admin team meeting. Counselors are aware that do those referrals, so yep. And it is going to very much align to what a lot of districts around us do. Some of them you only get to test one time.
Is that right?
Yeah, so we did a lot of different, looking at a lot of different options for that. And then I'm going to continue to work on this process, just to be honest, because I think that there are some other options that I'd like to.
Gonna tweak it a little?
Yeah. Yes, but for now I just want to make sure that we're completely transparent with parents, teachers, everybody. So I wanted to make sure and get this cleaned up as fast as possible, and then I'll look for the 24-25 school year to make some additional changes.
And knowing that Laurel Freeze is retiring this year, before we get a new gifted teacher in place, we'll make sure we have all of our ducks in a row. So thank you for that work.
Thank you very much. Item L, CCC Pavilion bid. I would accept a motion for this.
I move to award the contract of the Casper Center Pavilion Construction to SGI in Liberty, Missouri in the low bid amount of $369,995.
Second.
Motion and a second. Discussion? All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. Lead water testing quotes. I would accept a motion.
I move to award the quote for lead water testing to Axiom as presented.
Second.
Any questions, comments? All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Motion passes. I would accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved. Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor, please signify by aye.
Aye.
Opposed, no. Meeting's adjourned.